It's time for Business Minds Coffee Chat, an inspiring show about the journey to personal and professional growth. And now, your host, Jay Shear.
Hey everyone, you're listening to Business Minds Coffee Chat, and I am your host, Jay Shear, and I am super excited. I have got a fantastic guest in the studio with me today. My guest is a proud mom of 2 boys and 1 stepdaughter. She's originally from Springfield, Illinois, spent most of her adult life in the Chicago area, and has made Palm Coast her home since 2011. When she's not working, which, my gosh, I don't know how she finds time when she's not, but when she's not, you'll likely find her reading, doing competitive croquet, gardening, and spending time with her 5 grandkids. Please welcome the amazing Nancy Crouch. Nancy, it is so great to see you. Thank you for being here today.
Good morning.
Good morning. It is wonderful to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So let me ask you a question to kick things off. When I had asked you to be on today's show, what was the first thing that came to mind?
I don't like talking about myself.
Oh, okay. Why?
I don't know. Maybe I'm an introvert at heart. I don't know. I do like to talk about things I'm involved in.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
You know, and things that I, am proud of that I'm involved in. But talking about myself is like, I don't know, maybe I'm boring.
Well, it's funny, and I'm just going to be fully transparent here. So when I did ask Nancy to be on the show and we were texting back and forth, one of the first things that you said back to me was, well, are you sure? I'm so boring. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm around you, not all the time, but I'm around you enough to realize that you are so far from boring. And really the purpose of our conversation today is to get to know the person behind all the incredible things that you do. And I know that there's a lot there. So let's start here. Okay. I would love it if you would share with all of us one of the hardest things that you have ever done, one of the hardest things that you've ever done that really pushed you, Nancy, beyond the edges of your comfort zone. So one of the hardest things, and then I've got a follow-up question to that.
Well, one of the hardest challenges of my life,
Absolutely.
Surviving 3 cancer diagnoses.
Tell me more.
Since 1920. So it kind of made me realize, to live every day, make every day a profitable day. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that in the monetary sense. I mean that in like, today's a great day. What am I going to do tomorrow to make it even better? And I think that's probably why I get involved in so many things, because I try to make things better. If I see a niche, I think, oh, I can help do that, So those have been, severe challenges in my life. I lost my husband 4 years ago. That was kind of devastating.
What was your husband's first name?
Bob.
Bob.
Mm-hmm.
And when Bob passed, what was happening in your life at that time prior to his passing? Kind of where were you in life? What were you experiencing? What was going on?
Well, getting out of COVID, we were getting out of COVID a bit. And in fact, his brother passed away during COVID and he couldn't go to the funeral. So a lot of these things, and my brother-in-law died 8 days after my husband died. So it was like a crazy time, So I just kind of like sat back and just, did nothing for a little bit, just kind of regrouped. And, I had, kids that, were dealing with losing their father, so it was a hard time.
So when you were first mentioning about surviving 3 cancer diagnoses, you had mentioned since you said 1920. And I know, you didn't mean 1920.
I did?
Because you're a young chicken.
2002 was my first diagnosis.
2002. Okay.
And then the second one came 2022.
2022.
When I was here.
Okay.
And then during that time, there was a melanoma diagnosis. So in between there. So, yeah. So
tell me how, you mentioned about being so involved in things, and that maybe one of the reasons behind that is so much of the pain that you've experienced and the challenges that you've faced. How do you maintain today? How do you maintain such a positive outlook on life? What are some of the things that you do to be able to maintain that positive outlook? Because for many people, it doesn't necessarily come naturally, right? There's things that we do every day to help us build that muscle.
And I know it sounds kind of cliche, but I try to be positive and not negative. I try to ignore the noise. And by ignoring the noise, I can focus on the things that I want to get through. Mm-hmm. I try not to be afraid to fail.
Okay.
That's important, I think, for people is don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to try things. Don't be afraid to get involved. Don't be afraid to fail. I try to say that to my kids, too. If you're interested in something, go for it. Don't be afraid of it. So what if you fail?
Yeah.
You'll never know if you don't try, right? So
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing part of that journey with all of us. I think that helps give us some context around, who you are and some of the things that you've experienced that allow you to show up the type of person who you are today. Because when I look at you, when I think about you, when I'm around you, you put out a very strong energy. You're just a very confident, empowering person, and you're such a gift to all of us. And so I just wanted to share that with you first and foremost.
Just like my passion needs to be stronger than your fear, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when I'm passionate about something, I just try to put away that fear. Again, fear of failing.
Yeah.
So.
So let's wind the clock back a bit. When we were talking offline before we started to record, we were talking a little bit about family, and you came from a relatively large family. So share with us a little bit about your upbringing, and what I'd love to find out from you is growing up. First of all, kind of share with us a little bit about what kind of kid you were.
A tomboy.
Really?
Yeah, I was a tomboy.
Wow.
I'm one of 7 children, and I was sandwiched between 2 older boys and 2 younger boys.
Okay.
So, I had 2 older sisters that were like 10 years older than me. I didn't really get to know my sisters as well as brothers because we were all kind of the same age, and I got to know my brother's friends, and so I got to play football and baseball, and, I played with them, and I was just as good as they were, And my older sisters and I are like best friends now.
Really?
Wow. We talk every day.
Yeah.
And so we are like really, and we have been for a long time, but, growing up, one got married when I was 8, so. And I was a tomboy, In fact, from there, I became a competitive softball player in the city, and a competitive volleyball player. You wouldn't think that. I'm only 5'4", but
but you were. You let nothing stop you. That's outstanding.
Yeah. So I was very much into softball at the time.
Okay, and tell me a little bit about mom and dad.
Mom and dad. My dad was a state worker and a farmer. When I was 12, he came home to my mom and said, now get a load of this. How would you like if your spouse did this? Came home to my mom and said, I bought a farm. We're moving.
Oh my gosh. Had he had farming anywhere?
No.
Okay.
But he always wanted to have a farm. He wanted to raise hogs, and he wanted to, so he bought like this small farm of 25 acres, and he grew it to 80 acres. Out in the north part of Springfield. It's still in Springfield city limits, but the north end. So I got to grow up with horses and farm life, and we lived on a big river, so we fished all the time.
Okay.
So it was fun. I had a lot of people come over. They always wanted to come over to the farm, to play and ride the horses and. So we had fun.
That's wild.
I wish, kind of wish I had appreciated it more at the time. But when you're a 12-year-old girl, soon to be a teenager, you know, you want to hang out with your friend more.
Sure.
And so I wish I would appreciated it more.
Tell me about your mom.
My mom was a lovely woman. She, I don't know how, you know, becoming a mother myself, I honestly do not know how she raised 7 children. I do not. And all of us turned out good.
Way to go, Mom.
No one's in prison, you know, no one, you know. All of us turned out good and have good, healthy families. Yeah. And she was a good cook, and she came from a Scottish ancestry. My grandmother from Scotland lived with us for many years.
Really?
So there were oftentimes 10 people around the table. And again, I don't know how my mom did it, because my dad was of the ilk where he liked a 5-course meal every night for dinner. You know, and doing that for 9, 10 people every night.
Wow.
And I remember my mom making lunches in the morning where the kids always liked to have their favorite things. So she would put these brown paper bags out with our names on them. Someone would have egg salad. Some would have peanut butter and jelly. I'm like, how did you do that?
That's amazing.
You know? And
so did the kids help out when it came to meals and
we had our chores. We had our chores.
Okay.
You know, we had to take turns doing dishes, and you know, and we'd always fight over who was washing, who was drying, because whoever dried had to put away. Okay. You know, and that was like no one wanted to do that. You know, washers got done first.
Yeah, I can understand that. What was one of the most valuable lessons that you learned from your mom? And then I'd love to hear the same thing about your dad. So something specific that she either shared with you or that you just learned from watching her that you still think about today?
Well, my mom was very supportive, especially of me, looking back. And she calls me her miracle child. Only
Why?
Because I went through so many things in my adult life.
Okay.
My medical history challenges. Yeah. And you know, I got hit by a car when I was in Chicago. I failed to mention that part. Almost died. Wow. You know, yeah. So she's always like, you always surpass. You always come out of things better than before. And I was kind of like always reflected on that. Like, what do you mean by that? But, she always calls me her miracle baby. And my dad, he was just hardworking. He'd work all day, come home and work on the farm, you know, and I would always try to help, you know. My brother and I felt like Huckleberry Finn sometimes, because we had these long white fences that had to be painted, like, I swear, every summer. We'd have to be out there.
And you're fishing.
And we're fishing.
Fishing and painting.
Painting these fences, and we'd like be on each side of the fence throwing paint at each other, and you know, it was like, it took us a lot longer than it really should have to paint those fences, but I remember those days.
So what was one of the craziest things that you did as a kid? So growing up with your brothers and, you know, your sisters as well, what was, you know, as you kind of think back, one of those crazy life stories that you just can't believe that you did? Now that you look back,
well,
you can't believe you did that.
Here's a crazy life story that no one ever believes except for the people who actually saw it.
Okay.
My brothers and I were messing around at the river down by the dock area, and my dad had just brought in a stringer full of fish, and it was like next to the dock, and so I picked it up, and I was counting the fish, and I dropped it, and it's like loosened. It just like left. I mean, it was gone. The whole stringer of fish. There were probably 6 or 8 fish on there. Oh, no. And I was like, oh my gosh. So we ran down to, you know, probably a block and a half away was the sandbar area.
Okay.
And we were like fishing from there, and I caught that stringer of fish unknowingly. I actually, is that crazy or what? No one believes it except for the people. Yeah. Honest to God. You know. And so I suddenly went from like, you know, from being like, oh my God, you little creep, you know, to, you know, oh my God, you're the hero. I caught that stringer of fish again.
That's incredible. That is a wild story.
It is a wild story. No one believes me except for those who were there.
That is so good.
They're like, how'd you do that?
So why don't you share with us 1 or 2 words that you would use to describe yourself? Just 1 or 2.
Oh, Jay.
What's the first thing that comes to mind?
I'm committed.
Committed. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
I'm passionate.
Yeah. That you
And
are.
they might be synonymous. I'm not sure, but
Well, I can tell you that those are very true to who you are when I think about you, committed and passionate. Everything that I see you doing, you go all in. You're fully committed to the thing that you're doing, at least the things that I'm involved in, that you're also involved in. And your level of passion is absolutely on fire. And just knowing from personal experience, it is that passion that draws others in, that draws others to you and to the initiatives that you're working on. So 2 great words. I appreciate you sharing that. So we're going to hit pause on our conversation here for a couple of moments because we are going to take a break to thank our amazing sponsors. My friends, you are listening to Business Minds Coffee Chat. Don't you go anywhere. We will be right back.
There's no business like show business like no business I know. Visit the Fitzgerald Performing Arts Center at Flagler Auditorium. We're about to release our new season of professional touring shows. Visit our website at flaglerentertainment.com. Sign up for our newsletter. You can be the first to know about our shows and special offers. And remember, every time you buy a ticket to a show, you support the performing arts in Flagler schools and you support our local economy.
This is Jay Shear. Are you a business owner or entrepreneur trying to figure out how to improve and achieve greater results? If so, I'm speaking to you. I provide the tools, coaching, and accountability you need to gain clarity around your personal and professional goals, remove the excuses holding you back, build the mindset, leadership skills, and proven strategies to grow your business and become the best version of yourself. To learn more or to apply for my coaching services, call 904-236-0431 or visit jshearbusinessconsulting.com.
Thank you so much for recommending us to your family and friends. When you need a 30, 60, or 90-minute massage, it's real easy to book your appointment online. MassageByNatalie.org. MassageByNatalie.org.
All right, we're back. And again, you're listening to Business Minds Coffee Chat, and I am in the studio today with my very special guest, Nancy Crouch. We are having a great conversation, learning a lot more about Nancy's backstory, some of the challenges that she's faced, how she has really become the amazing person who she is today. And we're going to continue that conversation right now. So, Nancy, I wanted to kind of find out one thing, which you were talking about your husband, Bob, who passed away. How did you and Bob meet?
Oh, boy, we met in Springfield at a bar, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
My friend was interested in the guy he was with.
Okay. Okay.
And so we ended up chatting, and and it happened to be over the 4th of July, and so we ended up going to the lake to watch the fireworks and just kind of started seeing each other from there.
Now, for you, was it one of those things where it was like, wow, love at first sight? Same for him, or did it take time
No,
for
I think we
to
became
develop?
friends first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we became friends and realized we had a lot in common and had ambitions, and, so, yeah.
And when you think about Bob today, what are some of the fondest memories that come up? What do you see when when he's
Well, he
top
was
of
funny.
mind for you?
He was
He's funny. Okay.
Yeah, he was funny.
Yeah.
And
like dry funny or super haha.
both.
Both. Okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of unusual, but yes, both.
Interesting.
And he always said what he felt. Did
he have a social filter, or did he just?
Sometimes, but he if you asked him his opinion on something, he would give it to you.
Okay.
And so everybody always knew, exactly how he stood on things.
Okay.
So.
All right. Speaking of your kids here for a moment, is there anything that you wouldn't talk to them about?
Wouldn't talk to them about. Probably their career choices. I probably wouldn't talk to them about it.
Okay.
I always like them to figure it out for themselves.
Okay.
One figured it out earlier than the other. If they ask me, I'd be happy to share my opinion. But I think people need to find their own direction. And if they ask me, I offer my opinion, but I kind of let them feel their own oats there.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you. That's interesting. You are and I mentioned this at the top of the show, you are a competitive croquet player.
I am.
Am I saying that the right way?
Yes, croquet.
Okay. So when I was a kid, I had one of those croquet sets with the little wire things, you put in the grass, and I played around with my my two sisters. But being a competitive player, share with us just a little bit about what that experience is like, because you travel and you're soon to be traveling internationally for this, and you are a top-ranked croquet player. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, for women, I'm ranked one of the top 10, probably the top 25 among men. It is one of the only sports, one of the few sports, I shan't say only, one of the few sports that men and women compete against each other.
Together on.
They can compete together as doubles, or they compete against each other.
Okay.
Because it doesn't matter, but there are some women's international tournaments too that I have participated in.
Okay.
But normally most tournament play is men and women together.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
When did you first get involved in that, and how?
Well, when we moved to Grand Haven, where I live, we saw some people out there, playing, and we're like, oh, let's learn more about that. So we were at the local village center restaurant there, and we happened to be there one night where they all came in after dinner, and they got us hooked, and so we went and learned some lessons and took off from there.
But you had never played before?
Never. And the backyard croquet, interesting you should bring that up, because I've been working with the United States Croquet Association out of West Palm Beach. And at the end of this month, Palm Coast is hosting the 9-wicket national tournament here in Palm Coast. Now, the 9-wicket is the backyard croquet.
It is, okay.
And it's also often called long grass croquet.
Okay.
Because it's not played on the groomed courts that I compete with. I compete on really groomed courts that are like greens, like golf greens, where it's really fast.
Yeah.
And there are different balls, and that's called 6-wicket. And then there's golf croquet. Golf croquet is like played internationally, and so that's so golf croquet and 6-wicket are the two main sports I compete in. I do compete in the 9-wicket. I played in the nationals last year, and we'll play again this year. But I'm really happy that I'm working with the city on bringing that here, because they don't have to groom the courts. They can just put the hoops out. Cut the grass to a certain level, but they don't have to groom them.
And that's going to be held where?
That's going to be held at Indian Trail Sports Complex.
Okay.
The end of May.
Okay.
And I think May 29th through the June 1st or 27th through the 1st. But we have people from all over the country coming.
There's
people
cool.
coming from Colorado, from New York, West Palm, Kentucky, Virginia. So and these are top players. And you wouldn't think that 9-wicket is still a popular sport, but it is. It's recognized by the USCA, and so we're going to have at least 20 people playing, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Wow,
You got to come out
really
and watch.
Cool.
It's at the Indian Trail Sports Complex, and let that Thursday through Sunday, the end of the month.
End of the month. I'll be looking out for that.
And there'll be a couple clinics that we're offering to the community.
Okay.
Monday and Tuesday during that week. And just to see if they want to be involved and come out and play, because there's an introductory flight. They can play. It'll be fun.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
All right. So you were with the Art Institute of Chicago for nearly 30 years.
Nearly 30 years.
What was your?
I feel like
what
I
was
grew
your
up
role
there.
I bet you did. What was your role there? Or maybe it changed over the years.
Well, to immerse myself in art history, and I grew to appreciate the commitment and dedication of artists. Mm-hmm. If you're an artist, that's what you are. Sometimes you have to get a job to support yourself, but you're an artist. Mm-hmm. Your wife probably understands that. Yeah. So what they give up in their life to be complete as an artist was really compelling to me, really. talk about passion. Artists have passion.
That is for sure, for sure. So when you left the Art Institute first, was that a difficult decision for you? Had you felt at that stage in life that you had done what you wanted to and you were ready for a change?
Yeah.
What was happening with you?
I was ready for a change. My husband had retired from the phone company, AT&T, and
okay.
And we'd kind of always had this thought that we would move to Florida, or because that seemed to be where we vacationed mostly. And so I think I got off the train one February day, what must have been like minus 30 below or something, and I probably had 3-inch thick ice on my windshield, and I came home. I said, all right, put the house up on the market. We're moving. Because we had already bought a house down here, and we thought we might do the snowbird thing.
Yeah.
It just wasn't working. I mean, I just, when we were here, all we seemed to be doing was working on the house or doing projects and stuff, and not really being able to enjoy it too much. And then we go home, and I never felt part of anything anymore.
So you mentioned that you would vacation to Florida. Why Palm Coast? How did Palm Coast hit the radar?
That's an interesting story, too. My friends up where we lived in Chicago were from Jacksonville. And we had been friends ever since our kids were in school together. We had the same age kids, and we got to know each other. We were room moms together, and suddenly, I saw her one day. She goes, they bought a house in Florida. And I go, oh, really? We just started looking. And we started looking like in the Miami area. And as we moved up the coast, and she said, check out Palm Coast, and then check out Grand Haven. So my husband flew down, looked at a few places, and then looked at Grand Haven and said, oh, I only want to live here. They have so much to offer and everything. So then that's where he ended up. And then she was living here, we were living here, and then crazy.
That's a wild story. It's always interesting to find out when you talk to people, how did you end up here?
Yeah, somebody told us about it.
So if you had the magic wand and could change one or two things about Palm Coast, what would it be?
I would have to say, and I'm working on that, is increasing the arts and culture in the community.
So today, when you look around this area and this community, do you feel that is lacking?
I do. I think we've come a long way, but I do think there's so much more to do. There has to be an investment in the community, and I think we have a lot of organizations that are committed to doing just that. But we need investment by the municipalities.
Fair enough. Well, we have a lot of listeners of this show who are not only those involved in the community, but also those that are in leadership positions within the community. So I know that your words are resonating deeply with many people right now. Oh, I know it. And I do want to mention that, certainly one of the ways that you impact and draw more focus to arts and history and culture in this community is through chairing the Flagler County Cultural Council, FC3, which you are the chair of that organization and doing great work. And again, your passion and your commitment make a huge difference there. So Nancy, as we are wrapping up our conversation today, I would love it if you would give all of us, including me, one challenge. What is one thing that you would challenge us to do?
Promote. Promote and get behind the arts in the community. Promote it. We need it. I'm really proud of what we've accomplished so far. We've gotten the city to pony up additional funds for cultural arts grants significantly. We're managing that now. I'm really proud of the public art turtle trail that we continue to do. By the way, we have got an unveiling May 22nd, 10 o'clock, Waterfront Park.
Yes. I was over there this morning, by the way. Can't wait.
And I'm very proud of the scholarships that we've given away. We gave, Jay, you were with me last night, we gave 3 scholarships of $5,000 each away to 3 deserving, students graduating from Matanzas. So much fun to do that.
Absolutely.
I love to give money away.
Well, you are definitely a promoter, and I appreciate that challenge. And I do think that, like many things, when we get behind something that we're passionate about, we can truly make a difference and make things happen. And you are doing that. So, Nancy, I want to thank you so very much for joining me today on Business Minds Coffee Chat. I really appreciate you sharing a bit more about you. Certainly there's things that I learn from you all the time. Every time I'm together with you, I learn something different, and I learn about leadership as well.
Well, thank you, Jay. That's very complimentary.
Well, I appreciate it, and I'm grateful. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. It is my pleasure. And for all of you, I want to thank you so very much for tuning into Business Minds Coffee Chat. We will be back next Saturday morning at 8:30. And until then, my friends, keep learning, keep growing. Please help promote the arts. And we will see you on the next episode of Business Minds Coffee Chat. Take care, all.
Bye.